Hi guys! Welcome to another adventure. As you know, God's people, the nation of Israel, was made up of 12 tribes. Today we'll talk about how Israel was divided into two parts. The 10 northern tribes formed the kingdom of Israel, and the 2 southern tribes formed the kingdom of Judah. It all started when Solomon, the son of King David and wisest of all kings, turned away from God, became influenced by his pagan wives, and began to worship idols. Without God, Solomon became foolish, and as a consequence, God prophesied that his kingdom would be divided when Solomon's son became king. Do you remember what Samuel told the people? Yes. Samuel warned them that the kings would tax them, that their young men would have to serve in the palace to be taken to war, and that is exactly what happened. Solomon taxed the Israelites in order to build the temple, his palaces, and many cities. Do you know how many people worked for Solomon? 30,000 men! That's 1 out of every 43 Israelite men who were forced to work like slaves to build the temple. Let's listen as Shammai, one of King Solomon's officials, tells his wife about how the kingdom divided when King Rehoboam, Solomon's son, began to rule.
Hello, my dear. I was waiting for you. What news do you bring from Shechem? What finally happened in that town?
Hello, dear. Well, you know that the people were tired of all the taxes that Solomon had forced them to pay. And now that his son Rehoboam has been appointed king, they wanted to know if he was going to lower those taxes and improve things. 3 days ago, the tribal chiefs told the king that they wanted his answer before they decided whether or not to be loyal to him as their king.
Yes. I remember you already told me, Shammai. Rehoboam asked all of you elders who served King Solomon for advice, right?
Yes, exactly. Rehoboam asked our advice regarding the answer he should give, and our advice was that he should listen to the people and grant them what they asked for, because only in that way could he keep the loyalty and service of the Israelites to him as their king.
Sure, that's what the king is supposed to do. It wouldn't work any other way. But now, tell me, what happened today?
Well, you knew Rehoboam as a child. His parents' influence hasn't been the best. His mother, the Midianite princess, didn't teach him the fear of God, and Solomon tried to correct him, but because of his bad example, Solomon couldn't do much. Rehoboam is used to doing whatever he wants. Our advice didn't seem good to him, so he consulted with the young princes, his friends who had grown up with him in the palace and who were likely just as spoiled as he was. They advised him to treat the people harshly and tax them even more.
Oh no, the king's decision may cause a conflict among our people.
Imagine, he literally said, if my father Solomon punished the people with scourges, then I will punish them with scorpions.
So, if Solomon demanded high taxes, then Rehoboam will demand twice as much?
That's right, dear. The heads of the 10 northern tribes of Israel refused to accept that decision and have crowned a new king, a Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. Only the tribe of Judah and our tribe of Benjamin remain loyal to Rehoboam.
And isn't that Jeroboam from the tribe of Ephraim that King Solomon appointed as the head of the construction of the citadel of Milo?
That's right. It was the same prophet Ahijah who prophesied to Jeroboam that he would be king of 10 tribes of Israel. The prophet Ahijah tore his cloak into 12 pieces and gave 10 pieces to Jeroboam as a symbol of the 10 tribes of Israel that he would someday rule. God also warned Solomon that his kingdom would be taken away from his son, but for David's sake, God would leave him 2 tribes. And so it has happened.
Is that why Solomon tried to kill Jeroboam? Possibly he suspected something. Is that why Jeroboam went to Egypt? Was he possibly fleeing from King Solomon?
Yes, that's true. And unfortunately, in Egypt, Jeroboam turned away from the things of God. And now that he has returned, the people chose him to be their king.
I have heard that Jeroboam built 2 golden calves so that the northern tribes would not come to worship in Jerusalem. I've heard there's one in Bethel and another at Dan. Also, Jeroboam has also chosen priests for these false gods from other tribes. How terrible. Israel is getting worse and worse by the day. Israel will never again have the glory it had before.
Unfortunately not. Israel lost it because of their sin, because everything we do, whether good or bad, always has consequences. And it doesn't only affect us, but also our children and those around us.
Wait, so you think the division was God's will?
Look, my dear, yes, it was God's will to divide the people in order to stop the apostasy that had spread throughout Israel. God allowed this king to be foolish so that the division would happen. But I'm sure that God is still directing everything. Among the Jews, there is a reform movement rising up, and God has chosen to continue with a small group of faithful ones from the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. There is a remnant among God's people. There are even those who have come from other tribes and joined with Judah.
I do hope that God will purify his people from this apostasy.
Well, my dear friends, the division of the kingdom of Israel happened as a consequence of Solomon's sin and the apostasy among the people. The effect of Solomon's bad example always remained with the people of Judah. And although there were good kings who tried to reform the people, they could never completely get rid of their apostasy. The first commandment warns us not to have any other gods. False gods are all the things we love more than God. Anything that keeps us from spending time with God or distracts us from spiritual things. I have an idea. Write down 5 things you love very much that distract you from reading your Bible and praying to God. Talk with your parents and teachers about what you can do to keep these things from distracting you. This next week, dedicate special time each day to asking God to help you to always keep Him in first place. God bless you, children. See you next Sabbath.